Okay, good evening, everybody. It's 7 o'clock, and we said we'd start this meeting at 7, so we'll go ahead and get going. My name's Tony Beretta. I'm an assistant division administrator with our fisheries division as part of our fisheries management team. You're going to meet a number of folks on the Zoom meeting today. We have a number of individuals, not only from our fisheries division, including our division chief, Dean Rosenthal, but we also have a number of other individuals from other divisions, part of the Game and Parks Commission on the call tonight in case certain questions come up. And then we do have one of our commissioners, Pat Bergren, on the call too. So we appreciate that support, and we know that there is that avenue to utilize as we make decisions and do things within our game and park structure. So thanks for that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our presentation tonight. A general outline is what we're going to do, and what I'm going to do is start out with just some general statewide updates. I'm going to kick it over to our district supervisor, Brad Eifert, who will go over a general district overview. And then the Southwest District itself is actually broken down into smaller sub-districts. And so we'll see sub-district updates from a number of our biologists in the area. And they'll provide project updates, fish stocking information, and then area fishing forecasts, or a combination of those within their sub-district updates. And then we'll finish it up by allowing everybody plenty of time to be able to see staff contact information, because that's really what these things are about, is interacting between Game and Park staff and the public, and making sure everybody knows that we are available to answer questions, talk through things as things come up, not only at this meeting, but also down the road at any point in time. So I'm going to start with the statewide updates. Once again, this is the Southwest District meeting. We held a Southeast District meeting last evening. Northwest District is tomorrow night, and then Northeast will finish up on Thursday night. So if you're interested in some of those areas and some of those fisheries, go check those out. Register just like you did this one. If you can't make them, we will make these Zoom webinars available on our YouTube channel as well after we've completed those for the week. So you'll be able to find those on the Game and Parks YouTube channel. Something that we like to bring up every year is some of the new regulations that were implemented, that were passed through our commission last year, and were implemented January 1 of 2024. The main one that I do want to point out, I'm not going to go into detail on some of these others, but the main one for the Southwest District would be this channel catfish regulation. We have expanded the 1/30-inch rule or regulation to encompass all statewide waters. We used to have that 1/30-inch on just a select few water bodies, but we saw a number of things that pointed towards wanting to protect those older, larger fish, and so we implemented that statewide. And then, as you can see, we also implemented a few different regulations, a little bit more restrictive, to be more conservative with our bluegill and yellow perch, to hopefully protect those populations and increase size structure. And then we do have a new regulation that opens up some of the area in Gavin's Point Dam during the archery paddlefish season. And you can find these regulations and all other regulations that haven't changed and that are in place right now in our fishing guide. It's a really great resource. It's got a lot of information, not only on regulations, but our public fishing areas and that sort of thing. So be sure to pick one up when you do get a chance. Just wanted to mention our trout stockings that are happening right now. Actually, just prior to this getting going, was made aware that we did. It's pertinent to the Southwest District and to today. The North Platte I-80 Lake, Fort Kearny, and Windmill, all in the Southwest District, got stocked with some really nice fish, really nice rainbow trout today. And it being a really nice day, we've had multiple reports of really good fishing out there. And so don't uh, don't waste time. Get out there if you can. Take a kid, take a beginner, and utilize these trout as you can. That's what they're for, and that's what we want. We want folks out there utilizing these fish and getting after them. And you can find all the trout stocking information at on our website, outdoornebraska.gov, and just searching fish stockings, you can uh, basically stock any trout, or you can search for any trout stocking or any species stocking for that matter. Speaking of stocking, I just wanted to highlight our 2023 hatchery production. Our hatchery crews and our production system are so integral to our fisheries management in the state. For instance, just these numbers show that we stocked over 72 million fish in almost 300 water bodies in 73 counties throughout the state, and that encompassed 20 different species. And so that really shows a massive input of fish into our systems to not only have introductory fish stockings or fish stockings related to fish kill situations, but also a lot of maintenance and supplemental stockings that go along the way as well. Taking a step back, I just wanted to show you the last 3 years of stockings, some of the data that was compiled by some of our staff. We've done over close to 800 stockings at 380 locations, encompassing 130,000 acres and 190 million fish and 30 different species. So that's something to be said in just 3 years of stocking in the state. And it's, like I said, it's a huge part of what we do. Not only stocking, but with our management regulations that we talked about earlier, habitat manipulations, and that sort of thing are all part of our fisheries management strategies that we take upon ourselves and take upon these water bodies to make them the best that they can be. Wanted to mention our youth fishing program. We currently have, or we just recently had a youth fishing instructor workshop that was conducted in North Platte here earlier this week, but we have a number of other opportunities that are coming up this spring. And this program is so important to the things we do. We talk about those trout fishing opportunities where we want to get young folks out there catching fish. We have community fishing nights, expos, other fishing type clinics that go on throughout the year, throughout the state. And they're only made possible by Larry Pape and his team of helpers, youth fishing instructors that put on these clinics throughout the state. So we'd love to add to that team through these workshops to be certified as a youth fishing instructor. And once again, we're extremely thankful for all of the help that they provide and they continue to provide year in and year out. Also wanted to mention something to you as anglers out there, and something that's going to be mutually beneficial to anglers and our Game and Parks Commission and multiple other state fish and game agencies out there, is something called the Midwest Walleye Challenge that's going to be starting up later this month, March 30th. Now, this is a challenge. I'll play a short video for you in a second here, but this is a challenge. It's essentially a season-long walleye fishing tournament on multiple water bodies that really we're looking as state fish agencies across the Midwest have teamed up together to hopefully collect information on a lot of our walleye fisheries that can supplement our standard fish sampling data. And so by anglers actually entering into this challenge, either as a free participant that can uh, gather different types of prizes, or a $25 entry fee that makes you eligible for lots of cash prizes and other top tier prizes. Anglers will see a benefit of potentially being able to benefit from some of these prizes, but then they'll also be able to provide data to state fish and game agencies like Nebraska. And I'll play this short clip that kind of probably describes it a little better than I can. And I'm not getting any audio here. And I might ask Alex to turn that up if you can.
I think Alex needs to unmute.
Across 14, the Midwest Walleye Challenge kicks off March 30th, and this year our prizes are no joke. We have over $70,000 in prizes guaranteed across 14 states and provinces. There are rod and reel combos, tackle gift cards, even fishing trips to be won. Plus, the first 100 anglers to register a catch automatically win a $20 gift card courtesy of Discount Tackle. Motor on over to anglersatlas.com to enter today. You won't want to miss it.
So yeah, this is something our partners or our collaborators over at the Iowa DNR have taken part in the last couple years and have seen benefit and seen some traction, and now it's been ballooned out to more of a Midwest approach to see if we can gather information and also get anglers involved and interested in this sort of concept. So you see the QR code, you see anglersatlas.com. If you're interested, go ahead and check it out. We encourage that. One other thing, we like to, over the years, if you've been part of these meetings, we always like to provide a little bit of a video or something fun to be able to see during these presentations. And so wanted to provide a kind of a behind the scenes look at what a fisheries biologist and in particular a Nebraska Game and Parks fisheries biologist does day in and day out to collect the data and to do the things to manage our fisheries out there. So one of our Southeast District biologists put together this neat clip. It's a 1 second a day video that basically shows some of the things and many of the things that we do as fisheries biologists to get the work done for our fisheries. So I'll play that here. It's a short clip as well.
It's cold.
Not ideal.
Doing too hot. Nice. Pike rodeo there. Oh, he missed.
Got one that has eggs in her, yes. Black crappie. Day one, springtime circle. 2:30.
Holy.
Yep.
Smile for the camera.
Got it underwater.
Look at that. That'd have been 14.
So yeah, we just wanted to show you that to kind of display the diversity of things that are done as a fisheries biologist and really as a game and parks employee in general. Uh, these guys and girls are out there. They're jacks of all trades, have to be a lot of different things, and they put a lot of time and effort into making these resources out there the best that they can possibly be for you as anglers. So that's going to lead us into kind of our first break here. And I want to kind of preface this break with a couple things. We want question and answers. So as you can see in the bottom portion of your screen, you only have a couple different options. You have a reactions button, which some of you have found already, and then you have a Q&A box. And we ask individuals to input any questions that they may have on the topics that are going on or being talked about at the time, or just anything in general that they're curious about, and pop those questions into the Q&A. And we will get to those questions during different breaks in our talk between these sub-districts. At the same time as we are fielding some of these questions, we're going to have one of our moderators launch a poll, and this is going to be kind of an interactive meeting. So with you asking us questions, we also are going to ask you some questions as well to understand a little bit more about you as an angler, what your motives are, what your desires, and that sort of thing. So you'll see something pop up. I see one just popped up. And one thing to note on these polls as well is make sure you scroll down. Each poll will have at least 2 or 3 questions part of it. So once you answer that first one, scroll down before you press submit, because you may have additional questions that you haven't seen yet. So go ahead and answer those if you'd like. You don't have to, but it is helpful information. And we'll go ahead and I'll turn it over to our moderator for the night. His name's Jordan Cott. He's been really helpful on these meetings throughout our time doing these virtually. And I'll turn it over to him. He's currently, like I said, we do a lot of different things, jacks of all trades. Jordan is currently our private waters and community water specialist, but he's taken over as our moderator tonight.
Sorry about that. Before you go, I'm going to ask you this first question about where the proper way to measure a fish is located in the fishing guide. And if you don't know, I do have it pulled up, but it is in there if you want to touch on that.
Go ahead, Jordan. You got it pulled up. I don't.
It is on page 10 in the fishing guide at the bottom of the page, how to measure a fish. It gives the specifics on how to do that. With that said, we could probably have a discussion on putting a graphic or something in there, as opposed to just the verbiage. But there is a mention on how to measure a fish currently in the fishing guide right now. With that, as Tony mentioned, please don't be shy about asking questions throughout the talk. We are going to try to keep, during these breaks, the questions pertinent to the topics at hand. So we may not answer everything that's in the Q&A box immediately, but we will get to it at some point during the evening. So I think just for the interest of time right now, we're going to leave a lot of these questions as they'll probably get touched on during our talk, and go and close the poll here and share these results. So what species or species group do the majority of our participants fish for? Looking like walleye is king with the group tonight. 51% of our participants tonight are walleye anglers, or like to fish for walleye. and then it drops off pretty quick after that with 16% bass, 12% panfish. Got some white bass and wiper anglers in there as well. What types of water bodies do you fish in the Southwest? Not surprisingly, reservoirs is the majority. And then we have some interstate lakes. Again, not surprising there, as Southwest has the majority of the interstate lakes. And when open water fishing, what do you primarily fish from? Again, not surprisingly, most of our participants tonight are fishing from a boat at 65%. So again, appreciate everybody's participation there in the polls. Keep the questions coming, and we'll check back in here in a little bit.
Well, hi, everybody. My name's Brad Eifert. I'm the Southwest District Supervisor, and I'd like to welcome you all to this public meeting we're having tonight. Hope you can gain some valuable information and find some of the things we're talking about insightful. Looks like we have about 92 viewers on right now, so we have a pretty good turnout. So we're going to dive right into it here. Southwest District is a pretty large chunk of real estate in the south central and southwest part of the state. We have 30 counties in our district, and when all of our reservoirs are full, we have over 70,000 acres of water that we manage. Unfortunately, most of our reservoirs aren't full right now, so we don't have nearly that amount of water, but we do manage quite a few large reservoirs that are owned by, Central Nebraska Public Power and Irrigation District, Nebraska Public Power and Irrigation District, the Bureau of Reclamation, Corps of Engineers, and the Farwell Irrigation District. We also have a whole series of interstate lakes along sand pits along the interstate that we manage. There's about 60 of those that run from Grand Island to, roughly out by the Sutherland area. Also have a pretty good chunk of smaller city lakes in our towns spread across the district that allow, youth and people that can't get out of town very easily opportunities to fish for a variety of species. And then something that's, kind of unique about our district is that we have a lot of miles of irrigation canals that people are able to fish, extending from McConaughey all the way down to the Lexington area. Plus, we have a bunch of fishable rivers, such as the Platte River and Loop River and the Republican River system. And a little piece of trivia I kind of like about our district is we contain, roughly half the water that's in public water that's in the state of Nebraska, and we have less than 20% of the state's population living within our boundaries. So makes it a pretty nice, pleasant place to get away and fish for people. Not too far. We have about 14 fishery staff, full-time fishery staff that work in our district, in the Southwest District. We have 2 management biologists that work in Kearney. We have 3 management biologists that work out of the North Platte District office. And then we have 1 management biologist that works out of the Lake McConaughey Research Station. In addition to the management staff, we have 2 fish hatcheries in the district, one in Parks, Nebraska, which has Rock Creek Hatchery, which employs 3 people full-time, and they provide most of the rainbow trout for the western half of the state, as well as a few other miscellaneous species. Then we have the North Platte Fish Hatchery in North Platte that employs five staff, and they provide a good chunk of the walleyes, channel catfish, sauger, saweyes, and a variety of other species to water bodies all across the state. So we're real fortunate to have them in our district to help us provide extra fish for anglers to get after. As Tony mentioned earlier, we do have the district divided into 5 different sub-districts, with each biologist having a management responsibility on each one. So for the next few 20-30 minutes or so, we're going to let each district supervisor or district biologist talk about their particular sub-district and We're gonna start with sub-district 1, which is the Lake McConaughey, Lake Ogallala area, and Daryl Eichner is gonna take care of that for us.
Well, to begin with, going back to early 1940s, when McConaughey was first impounded, it's been vulnerable to some severe drawdowns in that period. Most recently in 2004, for example, we got down to a new record low. Normal full pool, you'll see on that graph, is 3265 elevation. That's 1,700,000 some thousand acre feet of water. Well, in 2004, we hit that new record low. We got down to 20% of the normal full pool volume of 340,000 acre feet, actually. In surface area, we got down to 41% of normal. Normal full pool is 30,000 acres. We got down to 41% of that, 12,400 surface acres. So that had a dramatic impact on the fishery. These wild swings in lake elevation, if you look at 2010, we had stair-stepped up from that low, record low in 04, but things can change so quickly. In 2010, we gained 8,000 surface acres in 1 year. We got within 5 foot of normal full pool and got the remainder of that full pool in 2011. Well, and there's the bad news. In 2012, we lost most of that 8,000 surface acres. So again, that's what we have to deal with in trying to manage this fishery. If you look at the last, like this last year, the last 2 years, a normal drawdown, summer drawdown average for that same period of time is 13, 14 feet per year average. Well, in 2022, we had a 27-foot drop. Last year it was only 7. So some wild changes and differences in the amount of drawdown. Again, that normal full pool, 3265, 1,700,000 acre feet. Elevation on the 15th was 3241.2. It's actually 3241.0 today. There's more outflow than inflow right now. Irrigation District is making a environmental account release for central Nebraska. We're 23.8 feet below normal full pool. 75% of surface acres and 64% of volume. Again, those average annual drawdown, 13.7 it is actually. And then the two extremes that I mentioned just in the last 2 years. And that's what the hand we're dealt, that we have to try and manage this fishery. One of the concerns is going into this year, what's going to be available for boat ramps. We're at a lower level. The circles you see there in red are boat ramps that will be serviceable, are serviceable now. Park staff has put the docks back out. The 2 yellow circles on McConaughey are possible ramps that could be put in service. Cedarview Lakeside and then Spillway Bay. What the lake elevations are going to do until the start of irrigation still remains to be seen. This is an example of what our Parks Division has to deal with, trying to keep these boat ramps, especially the lower lake level boat ramps, Martin Bay low water ramp, Lemoyne low water ramp, and Divers Bay ramp. Wind action, wave action moves a lot of sand. And depending on how much wind and what direction, sometimes they have to do what you see in this image daily. They also have to, at times, the heaviest irrigation release, and it depends on lake elevation, but the lake will draw down 3/10 of a foot a day. So in addition to keeping the sand off the ramps, whether it's daily or every 2 or 3 days, they have to chase water level with those boat docks as the water level is dropping. This is our standard survey net data for walleye going back to 1994. Unfortunately, we see a decline in the overall catch here, especially this last year. I would like to make note of the color coding for the smaller size fish. There was an increase. If there was good news, there's young fish that will be recruiting into the legal size. Wiper catch, again, numbers were up a little bit this year. Those two species are probably the most important fish that people target at McConaughey. Our fish stockings going back to 2014. Most recently, well, in 2022 and 2023, we did start stocking fry walleye. You see the numbers there for 2022 and 2023. I will mention that I didn't, with the walleye fingerling, for example, in 2023, about 800,000 of those were our standard length for walleye fingerling. 200,000 were what we call walleye plus. Instead of an 1.25" walleye fingerling, these were something closer to 1 3/4 to again see if we could determine which size fish contributed the most, and of course with the fry stocking. The stocking request for this year again is 20 million fry and 100,000, 1 million fingerling, excuse me. We've had graduate students working through the University of Nebraska Kearney, working on different projects on McConaughey. And this started back in 2015 or 16. They initially started looking at our white bass recruitment. Things have continued where they're looking at the stock contribution of these different fry stockings, fingerling plus. And there you'll see some of their findings from the last couple of years, 2022. And then you compare the percent contribution from 2022 to 2023. There's some differences in numbers there. And with that in mind, there will be a third year of this type of evaluation. They're using a tetracycline mark to give a certain mark to the fingerling, a certain mark to the fingerling plus, and then the fry. In 2022, we didn't quite have everything in place. The fingerling, there was a concern, you know, how many natural reproduced walleye contribute each year to the annual recruitment. In 2022, they used something called microchemistry and came up with some values. But anyway, you see the contribution each respective year for each of those size groups, stocking sizes. The total number collected is also significant. And it kind of comes back to that walleye graph where it showed more of the smaller fish, the 10-inch smaller fish. Their success collecting those young of the year walleye that they're evaluating, they had a much better catch this year. Again, they seem to be more abundant. In terms of the length frequency for these young of the year fish, the 2022 analysis the grad students did versus 2023, the x-axis on, for example, the 2022 data, that's in millimeters, 100 millimeters, that's a 4-inch mark. And that's showing that quite a few fish were under the 4 inches and smaller, which is a concern to me and others that fisheries literature indicates that those small fish maybe don't have the best opportunity to recruit, make it to 1 year old, 2 years old. That photo inset in the image there is an example of the extremes, the small size versus what is normal or what we would hope to see. Not quite as much of a percentage of those small fish in 2023, but that was really interesting to me. I had seen these small walleye 10 years ago. I did not realize until the grad students got involved with their work that they're doing how many of those small 4-inch and smaller walleye were out there. McConaughey's had a recent history of quality walleye that is important to some people. And this is a trend that's carried for 5, 6, 7 years. But in 2023, 83 of the total 136 statewide master angler walleye came from McConaughey. There's 2 qualifications. There's qualification by weight, 8 pounds or above. There's a qualification by length, 28 inches, if you, for example, catch and release. But anyway, of the 68 master angler walleye recorded by weight, McConaughey had 53 of those. The largest walleye recorded on the master angler data was 32 inches and 12 pounds, 15 ounces. Nighttime creel, the last 2 years, this is an April creel during the walleye spawning run. You'll see the numbers for 2022 and 2023, the number of bank anglers, boat anglers, total hours fished each year. And then the angler catch again for each respective year, by bank, by boat, total catch, angler harvest, there's catch, and then there's actually what they harvested for bank and boat, and with the total harvest for both years. Again, walleye spawning run the month of April. Daytime creel. This is from 2022. Now, unfortunately, we weren't able to conduct the creel last year, but these are the numbers from the daytime creel, April 1st through October 31st. Sunrise to sunset. We were not able to have a creel in 2023. There's a difficulty with hiring temporary help to conduct such a creel. Just from conversations I had with anglers, it really is unfortunate we couldn't do a 2023 creel because anglers I was talking to were having some of the best walleye fishing success in several years. And not only were they catching their limits that are important to them, they were catching a lot of sublegal fish that they had to release, which was good. And it comes back to that point I was trying to make. It looks like we recruited a fairly strong 2023 year class of walleye. I'm going to move on to Lake Ogallala. In my tenure, I've participated directly in 3 of the Lake Ogallala renovations, and the most recent was last October of 2023. The effort there is to eliminate the undesirable species, primarily carp and white sucker. And this is done with the labeled fish toxicant rotenone. It gets pretty involved. It's a 650-acre lake. We had 11 boat crews in there, 2-man crews. We had additional ground crew moving the product to the boats and loading boats. Now, this Lake Ogallala renovation hinges on what we want to do has to fit into the water operation plans of Central and Nebraska Public Power. We had hoped to do this in 2022. Again, what we wanted to do didn't fit their water operation plan, but we were able to pull it off last year. And it's a pretty involved operation. There's a lot of chemical to get shuttled in and stored, and that assistance that made this happen included our park staff, who and Central Nebraska Public Power that allowed us to store some of our product in their facilities prior to the renovation. Park staff put people on the ground for us at the boat ramps, loading boats and shuttling the pallets of the liquid and powder to the water's edge. Again, this is my third renovation I've been directly involved with. And last year, it couldn't have gone any smoother. With everything that's involved, we didn't have any equipment breakdowns. We had knowledgeable staff that have a lot of experience in applying the chemical. Again, it just could not have gone any better. The renovation results, the carp and the white sucker are the most concerning in Lake Ogallala, being more apt to be bottom feeders. The Lake Ogallala trout do so well on the aquatic invertebrates that are available. Now, the carp and the white sucker with their numbers steadily increase after a renovation, but they interfere with a lot of life cycles for those aquatic invertebrates. And you can see the numbers there. This was information collected by grad students out of the University of Nebraska Kearney. I would also mention that these grad students, whether they're working McConaughey or Lake Ogallala, Dr. Keith Copel is in our Kearney office. Dr. Melissa Wollner is at UNK there at Kearney. And these grad students work under their supervision and project design and so forth. But anyway, the carp and white sucker combined made up 81% of the total biomass of undesirable fish. And then if you carry it a little further, the total pounds of carp and white sucker divided by 650 surface acres, that comes to 1,464 pounds of carp and white sucker that were removed, which is a significant number. So ideally, we're going to get back that trout fishery to what it can be. The 2023 post-renovation stockings are rainbow trout, tiger trout, and yellow perch. And then you'll see the stocking request for 2024. Some more tiger trout, rainbow, yellow perch, smallmouth bass. And then we're going to try something new with cutbow trout. They're already in the system. Hopefully will be available for stocking sometime late this year. And to more or less end what I have, this is what Lake Ogallala trout quality can be when it's at its best. And it can be a remarkable fishery. It's also a 12-month fishery that Lake McConaughey is not. You aren't going to find much ice fishing success on McConaughey, whereas Lake Ogallala, even with ice cap, there's some open water, a lot of seepage area along the north basin of Lake Ogallala for bank anglers in front of the river canal gates down at the diversion dam. And then it's not just Lake Ogallala, it's the river below, immediately below the Keystone diversion, and the canal all the way down to primarily Paxton, but it extends on into Sutherland Reservoir. Very popular fishing areas. And again, that 12-month fishery that actually McConaughey does not provide. And I understand, I realize I go through this pretty fast. We have a lot of material to follow up here. I'd encourage anybody, if you have questions, and I'm just trying to hit on the high points here, but please call if you have any questions. And thanks for your time.
All right, thanks, Daryl. Do have a couple questions here for you while we start the poll. First, what's the primary forage in Lake McConaughey?
alewife and secondarily gizzard shad. Used to be primarily gizzard shad, and there was an effort to diversify the forage base, and alewife were introduced.
Very good. And I know you touched on this during your talk, but could you just mention it again, the reason why we didn't have a creel for the summer during 2023 at Lake Mac?
Unable to hire temporary help to conduct a creel. And the way our creel system's set up now, it's not one creel clerk, it's two, just because of the large area. And it was we're just simply not able to hire staff to conduct a creel.
Sure. A couple questions. Do you have any information on the repair at the dam on McConaughey?
All I
know
can
that's
say,
kind of a loaded question, but
well, um, I don't want to speak for Central, but I do know they're looking at options on how to fix the problem. They've looked at initially replacing or placing rock on the damaged area. They're looking at removing all the rock, pushing it downhill, uh, resurfacing the face of the dam either with concrete or soil cement. They have hired a consultant. I've been told they actually hired a second consultant to review the findings of the first, if I understood that correctly. But they're still trying to decide on the best fix it that's going to take care of things. And I heard one of Central staff, whatever it is they do, they want to do it right, so it's fixed for the next 100 years. It's going to be very expensive with whatever method they use.
all right, thank you. One quick question about, well, maybe not quick, but about Lake Ogallala and its potential, as you mentioned, as growing magnificent trout. Can you touch on potential for differing regulations on those trout and in order to maximize its trophy potential?
Well, it would be something we could consider, but we what Lake Ogallala has been a magnificent fishery when everything's right. Before carp and white sucker become a problem, the quality of these fish is remarkable. Their body depth ratio to length. That image that I showed, the upper right hand corner image was fish actually out of the Keystone Canal. Those fish look obese. They're so well. And I might point out, it just came to mind, that picture was taken less than 12 months after the 97 renovation. They grew to that quality in a short amount of time. It comes back to the availability of that aquatic invertebrate forage base.
All right. Thank you much, Daryl. As everybody in the audience can tell, Daryl is very knowledgeable and very passionate about McConaughey and Lake Ogallala, and is a very great resource for both our division and for all of you anglers out there. And as you mentioned, if you have questions about either resource, reach out to him. He very much enjoys chatting with all of you about those resources. With that, we're gonna continue on here and share our poll results. Where the group is fishing most in the Southwest District, we have a lot of McConaughey anglers at 46%, and then it kind of spreads out a bunch. One thing that kind of pops out here is a lot of I-80 anglers at 28%, mixed in there with a lot of the larger reservoirs, which is pretty interesting. Did you participate in tournament angling in 2023? The vast majority did not. And unfortunately, I'm not able to see the short answers, but not a lot of tournament anglers with us this evening. But that's good information for us. Once again, keep the questions coming. We'll get to them as we can, and or at the end, and we're gonna continue on.
Well, I'm Jared Lawrenson, a district fisheries biologist in North Platte. I'm the primary point of contact for the 8 reservoirs below McConaughey downstream, along with 20 interstate lakes and about a dozen community lakes. And I can't advance my screen for some reason.
Try clicking again, Jared. There you go.
Okay, there we go. And as you can see, thank you. I'm kind of in the middle of this big district, but I've got about, well, just what I said in Lincoln, Dawson, Gosper, and Custer counties. And out of respect for everybody's time, I'm really going to make this abbreviated. So please give me a phone call or drop me an email if you're interested in any specifics. I'm going to talk just a little bit about a couple project updates I need to mention, some stockings that are upcoming, and some survey information you might be interested in. There we go. So the first project update, as many of you noticed, even if you just drive around on the interstate, we've cleared cedar trees and Russian olives along the entire shorelines of 8 different interstate lakes. This has been getting done in conjunction with our wildlife division, and it really increases angler access to these areas, as well as safety and visibility. The second project update I need to mention is an upcoming angler access improvement project at Lake Maloney's Inlet. This is being done in conjunction with NPPD, and the main goal here is to increase the ease of access to the water's edge for all anglers. And it's quite possible that ground is broken this calendar year, but it might not. As I've noticed, it doesn't seem like bids have been let yet, but it's coming. Now, this slide is really just a snapshot in time. And if you get onto our website and access the stocking database, which I encourage everybody to do, these numbers and species will look close, but they won't be exact because these are requested for this calendar year. And some species are stocked every year. Others are stocked on a rotating schedule depending on the species and the site. And other species reproduce on their own, so they're not stocked near as often. In 2024, as you can see, we've requested 15 different species be stocked in my area, and these stockings have already started earlier this month and will go through September, with a lot of them happening this spring and early summer. So we'll get into some survey information. Again, this is going to be quite short to save some time. We're only going to talk about the 4 major canal reservoirs in my area and only the 4 most popular game species in those lakes. And this is all information from last fall's gillnet surveys. I encourage you to contact me for more specifics and also to get online and find our fish sampling reports. They're really great. So first off, we'll talk a little bit about walleye. At Sutherland, we really knocked their socks off. We caught 47 per net. However, a large percentage of them were young of year. And when I say young of year, I mean they were hatched during 2023 in the spring. Current research indicates that they are not washouts from McConaughey. We had some real favorable conditions at Sutherland this spring that I believe allowed young of year fish to really thrive. And we'll talk about that just a touch later. At Maloney, we caught just shy of 18 per net. However, 70% were greater than the minimum length limit of 15 inches. At Johnson, we caught a low number of walleye per net. There was a severe water decline at Johnson, as many of you know. And there's a lot of environmental factors at play all the time, especially at Johnson. Our survey was done on October 12th. Okay. Yeah, at Elwood, we had a low catch there as well, but we did have an extraordinary high catch of young a year again. And this value of young a year hasn't been seen since 2007 at Elwood. Just a note to add about Elwood. We've heard that water is supposed to start flowing in there on April 1st, and it will hopefully flood some habitat this year. So moving on to white bass. Well, we had a big catch at Sutherland as well of white bass. I can't seem to advance my screen. Oh.
Maybe Jordan, as Alex pulls up that PowerPoint again, maybe we can pop in here with a few questions that have come up that are associated with this portion. Okay, looks like you got it going again.
There we go.
Try and get you back, Jared.
Okay.
Hold on.
Well, anyhow, at Sutherland Reservoir, we caught 27 white bass per net. Approximately 24 of those 27 were young a year. So that was a huge value of those again. Average length of all the fish captured though at Sutherland for white bass was 8 3/4 inches.
While we're working through this, I'll try to answer a couple of these. So I know there's one question on here about an upper limit on the full pool of Lake McConaughey during the dam repair. I think that question would probably be best directed at Central or Public Power or NPPD. They would probably have more information, and I think Daryl Eichner could probably get you in touch with the proper folks over there for that information. Let's see if this will work for Jared now.
Okay. There it is. Yeah, we had a huge catch at Sutherland. A lot of them were young a year again. At Maloney, we had 5 per net, which is a huge value for Maloney, really, because in recent history and in 2022, we only sampled 0.5 per net. So that's a great increase to see. At Johnson, again, we had a low value there. And I was going to mention earlier, we have received good fishing reports for walleye specifically at Johnson here recently. Okay, moving on to hybrid striped bass, also known as wiper. At Sutherland, we caught 20 per net, and this is due to a large success of 2022 stocking of fry. And I expect a large percentage of these fish to be nearing the 16-inch mark for anglers this spring and summer. At Maloney, we caught just shy of 21 per net, and this is due to successful downstream migration of those same fish at Sutherland. They just moved down to Maloney for us. And at Maloney, it seems like the average size is a little bit smaller and they're a little bit more rangy in length. At Johnson, we caught 1.75 per net, but they were large specimens. At Elwood, we had both numbers and size. We had 18 per net. The largest was 25.5 inches at 6 years old. Okay, channel catfish. At Sutherland, we caught just shy of 17, and this was a rebound. The last few years, we haven't really seen all that many, and I was starting to worry a little bit, so I was really glad to see this. At Maloney, we had 20.5 per net, and this is the largest catch of channel catfish we've had since 2013. At Johnson Reservoir, we had 8 per net, which is the largest in history at Johnson Reservoir. And at Elwood, we had 1.75 per net. Now, I wanted to talk about a couple of things due to habitat that I really think is allowing us to reap the benefits of good fisheries. This graph on the left is this Sutherland's water elevation. We had rising water elevation during the month of May. That does not happen every year, and I believe that allowed the young year walleye and white bass to really thrive. And at Sutherland and Lake Maloney especially, we have vegetation, and that's another form of habitat. And that's in the form of spiny naiad right now. And we really have abundance, whereas we never used to. And I meant to mention a 5th species. We have a boom and yellow perch, whereas we never used to. And you can credit, I believe, the spiny naiad. So I'll pass it along to some polling. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Jared. I do have a few questions for you. Do you have any thoughts on the decline at in the white bass at Johnson?
Not particularly. I think they'll be coming back. White bass are a boom and bust kind of species. When they do well, they really do well. And we might be going through a little bit of a rough patch. But with that being the bottom of the canal reservoir system, I think they're coming. We're really fortunate to have young a year getting started.
Very good. Yeah. Also sticking with Johnson. So when you were doing the netting survey out there and with the water level out there last fall, what was the water level? Was it when it was during the lower drawdown? And do you think that affected your netting results at all? If it was?
Yeah, I believe it probably did. The water kind of went, fast, and we were right before it went really fast, but it had already started coming down just a little bit. So I don't know. It probably did affect things. There's a lot of environmental factors though at play.
Sure. And speaking of lower water, I mean, obviously we're dealing with that across the state in a drought here, but you guys have a little bit different situation out there with your irrigation reservoirs and water supply reservoirs. Elwood is a little bit different situation with what's going on there, with that reservoir being held lower right now. Have you guys thought about putting any habitat structures in there while it's being held lower during the project that's going on there?
Well, the short answer, I guess, is no. I hadn't really thought about it. There has been some structure put in recently by the public, and that's been approved by Central. We got to get permits just like the public does. But I mentioned spiny naiad, and Elwood's one of the places that we have a lot of that, and we already have a lot of habitat, whether we add any or not.
All right, very good. With that, I think we'll keep moving on here. I'm gonna close the poll and share the results. And so you feel that bank fishing accessibility is adequate across the Southwest District? 65% feel that it is. And do you feel that boat fishing accessibility is adequate across the Southwest District? 76% feel that it is. And then would you support changing the current 1/16 daily bag limit on white bass wipers to a 1/18 at Southwest District reservoirs, which would exclude Elwood, and 67% would support that regulation change. So that's some information to ponder for all you guys out there in the Southwest District. So we'll keep moving on and keep the questions coming.
All right. Hi, I'm Alan Single. I'm the fisheries biologist here in Kearney. And my district is up here, pretty much the Kearney area lakes, over to Grand Island, and then up to Sherman Reservoir as well is under my responsibility. And we'll just start out by giving some quick project updates. Last year, we were able to do some work on a dock over at Windmill SRA, and then dedicate that as the Steve Heil Memorial Dock. We came in with the help of Parks Division, and also Larry Pape helped us design that the sign that you can see in the bottom right picture. And we were able to have a dedication out there for Steve Heil. And it's a pretty nice dock, and it gets a lot of use out there. Like Jared mentioned, we're continuing to do brushing projects on all the 80 lakes. We just recently conducted one with the help of wildlife out at Key West here in Kearney. And we're going to continue to do those as time allows. We're also building fish attractors and structures, some spiders pictured here, which we put into Warax. And then we're also building Georgia cubes, which we put last year into Windmill. And we're going to try and do some more of those type of structures this year as well. Quick update on a preliminary aquatic habitat project at Windmill. And we're at the 10% of the planning phase right now, and we're looking to get this work done most likely next year, starting in the fall. But for Lake One, we're looking to put a berm across on the south side there to prevent flooding and keep out some undesirable species like common carp. We're going to try and put in some angler access there, as well as do some shoreline smoothing in that corner, the north corner there, as well as additionally putting in some floating wetlands, which will hopefully provide some deep water habitat, which the sand pit is kind of lacking. On Lake Two, we're looking at putting in 2 angler access features on either end, and then as well as doing some shoreline deepening in select areas. And then on Lake Three, we're looking at doing a couple more angler access nodes, as well as some shoreline deepening. We're calling them scallops, where they just come in and take out that material, as well as putting in some gravel for spawn bed structure in the lake itself. For lake number 4 here, we're looking at reconnecting that wetland you can see kind of up here on the north side, and dredging all that material out, as well as coming in here and doing some shoreline smoothing, just to provide a nice place for anglers to get down and access this lake. Grant has done a fabulous job out here clearing up most of the shorelines, but we're just going to take that a step further and really, grade those back. So it's just an even more gentle slope. And on Lake 4 here, we're talking about putting in a floating dock feature, which is going to tie into some of Parks' plans, and they're putting in a playground right back here. For Lake 6, we're looking at doing some shoreline dredging, as well as dredging out this area right in here, and reconnecting that area, as well as putting in an angler access node, and then some more floating wetlands, and as well as doing some shoreline smoothing on the north side here. For fish stocking in my district, I didn't put any numbers up, but here are the areas that we're going to stock fish this coming year. Muskie are going back into Sandy Channel, Mormon Island, and Ellie Ray. We've got walleye going into Sherman, as well as some of our I-80 lakes, Mormon Island, Warax, Sandy Channel, and Cotton Mill and Ellie Ray. Saugeye gets stocked at Pioneer Trails. And we just talked about some of our rainbow trout stockings, but those are listed here. And for a full list of our channel catfish stockings, it's on our website, or feel free to reach out and I can get that information to you. We're also planning on stocking some smallmouth back into Stanny Channel number 2. We renovated this lake last year, and it got restocked last year with perch and smallmouth, and we're just going to do an additional smallmouth stocking there, as well as we're going to put black crappie into Key Lake here in Kearney. And just to give a brief update on some of our surveys from last year, we primarily focused on the Kearney area lakes last year, pictured here, with Cotton Mill, Yanny, North Kearney Rest Stop, as well as Key West, Key Lake, all the Archway Lakes, and Buffalo at WMA. And here are our survey results. Cotton Mill had, we caught the most bluegill out there, followed by Buffalohead. But Yanny and Archway number 1 had the most bluegill over 8 inches. And for our largemouth bass, Cotton Mill had, again, we electroshocked, night electrofished for largemouth as our standard sampling. And Cotton Mill and North Kearney Rest Stop we sampled the most bass out there. But we found a pretty good size structure at most of our Kearney lakes, with some fish over 15 inches in most lakes. And I just wanted to throw this in quick. Some of our yellow perch smallmouth bass stockings are doing really well. This is a length frequency distribution for Key West, and these fish are growing really good. You can see that 12-inch fish are, they're growing pretty good, and they're getting even closer to 15 inches by now. I also want to talk quick about Sherman Reservoir, and we sampled Sherman walleye in our fall gill nets, and here's the last 10 years of our fall gill nets up at Sherman, and it was a pretty similar catch to 2022. But the exciting thing is, and this is that same graphics that broken down by ages, but we did see, like Jared did in Sutherland, a big bump of these age 0 fish. So I think we got a good strong year class off last year, and that's hopefully going to recruit up into these catchable size slots. For our crappie catch last year in the spring trap nets, we caught very similar to 2022. But I just want to note here that these fish that were 8 to 9 inches are now pushed through that and are now in that 10-inch size slot and are able to be harvested at this point. Last year we had a really good white bass catch, much higher than in recent years. And we caught a lot of fish over 12 inches. And we were able to get some ages off these fish. And they're actually a surprising amount of older white bass out in Sherman, which is good to see. And that's all I got. Please feel free to reach out and contact me or Brad, who here in the Kearney office, and hopefully we can answer some of your questions. Like Jared said, all these survey summaries results are up online. We put a lot of work into writing those survey summaries up, so I hope you guys take a look at them. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex. So one question I see that Brad is typing a response, but if you want to touch on it, the Yanny Park trout, I know there's some larger fish that go in there. Any update on the future of that and just touch on where those fish come from and who provides those fish.
Yeah,
Uh,
I can handle
yeah,
that question.
perfect.
Yeah, those fish in the past have been graciously stocked by Mike Annie, who is the founder of that park. He's bought thousands of dollars worth of trout, crappie, catfish over the years from private hatchery to put in that city lake, and it's been real popular. He decided last year not to do that anymore. And the city of Kearney and the Parks Foundation, I think, are working on, developing a funding source to maybe make some of those stockings in the future for some special events. But for the most part, I think those big trout, probably not going to stock those anymore at this point in time.
Thank you, Brad. So I know also you guys did a project at Sandy Channel recently. Any updates on that project and what's going on at Sandy Channel?
We did a renovation on Sandy Channel #2 there last year, as well as we did, and so that's been restocked, like I mentioned, with yellow perch and smallmouth bass. We also did a quick boat ramp repair project out there last fall. We got some more rock on the end of a couple of those ramps, just because there was that cavity at the bottom of those. But that's the primary projects we've done out there. Oh, as well as I guess we did a dike repair out there last spring, between two of the lakes, and that's been finished up for a while now. So,
Right, very good. And then I'm not sure if this falls under you, Alex, or not, but Lake Hastings.
yeah.
If you know about that, okay, perfect. Any update on that, and if Game and Parks Fisheries will be involved in that project or not, or if that's still ongoing? I know
Yeah, it's
that one's been
still
dragging on
on.
for a while.
Yeah, they just completed are in the process of completing one of their watershed plans. We were consulted on that, and they do have some suggestions for in-lake habitat modification, as well as some dredging there, but they're still quite a ways out, and we provided comments here pretty recently. But so they're in the process of working through that watershed management plan, and identifying sources of phosphorus and nitrogen that are coming into the lake, and how they can mitigate some of those things. So I would say we're probably
Oops, I think we lost Alex there. Brad, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm still on. I can hear you.
Okay. So while we work to get Alex back, since he mentioned Sherman, maybe if you could touch on what there's a question about the Sherman walleye and crappie regs, and if any consideration about moving those regs to more lakes across your district. Maybe just touch on what the Sherman walleye reg and crappie regs are, and what the thought process might be about moving those regs to more of your waters.
Right. For Sherman, for crappie, we have a 10-inch minimum length limit, which has been real popular up there with anglers, and it's provided a real good long-term fishery for those crappie. For walleye, we have a protected we have a harvest slot of 15 to 20-inch fish where you can keep 2 of those per day, and then we have a protected slot from 20 to 28 inches where all those fish have to go back, and then we allow the harvest of 1 over 28 inches. And that was implemented back in 2009 primarily to protect our brood stock, because we use it as a brood stock lake, as well as allowing anglers, some limited harvest, and then creating the opportunity to catch some bigger fish. So it's been a pretty successful reg. We've seen a pretty nice increase in some of the bigger fish up there, and And most anglers are pretty happy with the 2 fish they can take home when they do catch some 15 to 20 inch fish. So as for moving them other places, I know Sean, he's going to touch on it in his talk, but he's talked about implementing some length limits on crappies down in the Southwest on some reservoirs down there. He just needs to acquire a little bit more data to see how it's going to work for the modeling and see if it's going to work. As for moving it around for more walleye lakes, I'd be all for it. I'm not sure our anglers would go for it. It'd be something we'd have to, take by lake situation and, do some modeling on those particular lakes to see if it's going to work, and then, work with the angler groups to see, if they're going to embrace that regulation or not. So, but no, I'm all for protecting fish. I mean, with as much fishing pressure as we have these days, and the technology that anglers have at their hands, and the amount of time they seem to have to go fishing, our fish don't stand a chance anymore. So, anything we can do to protect the fish is good by me.
All right, thanks, Brad. Looks like Alex got things fired back up, so I'm gonna close and share the poll here, and we'll keep moving on with Sean. So, similar to what Brad just touched on, we asked our group tonight, would you support a 10-inch minimum length on crappie at more waters throughout the Southwest district? And overwhelmingly, the crowd would support that at 89%. Which species group would you like to see more management emphasis on? Scrolling through here, 32% walleye and 30% panfish. So that also kind of supports that same conclusion there, that walleye and panfish should have more, at least with our audience tonight, some more management, potential regulation information on there. So with that, I will turn it over to Sean, and we'll keep moving on.
Thanks, Jordan. We've kind of touched on this several times tonight. Here's my contact information. Please reach out, ask questions. If we don't cover everything tonight, I like talking to anglers. It's always good to get a better thumb on what's going on. Let's see here. My area is right down here in the corner of these 7 counties, which includes the 4 Republican drainage reservoirs above Harlan. It was a pretty wet year this year. We saw some major rainfall for everybody that lives down there. They're well aware of that. Some of our areas got hit pretty hard by these big runoff events. I'm going to talk about those here real quick, and then touch on a few aquatic habitat projects we have going on, and finish up with a fishing forecast. So at Hayes Center, we had that major rain early spring that washed out the ramp pretty significantly, as you can see. And this has kind of been an ongoing issue at Hayes Center that we've been trying to figure out a solution to, and I think we might have finally found a solution. We're going to put in a new concrete ramp with construction planned for the summer of 2024. This is going to go in over by the picnic area on the northwest side of the lake. That's going to include an ADA parking pad with we're tentative completion date by mid-August. So we're looking at getting this out to bids pretty soon. So there will be some area closures around that picnic area while this is under construction. So keep that in mind if you're out there using that area. With those major rains, Frenchman WMA just north of Palisade got hit really hard as well. The Weather Service reported just over 9 inches of rain in one night. Right there at the Frenchman WMA. As you can see, there was pretty major damage to some of the roads, silted in over the primitive boat ramps that are out there. We did get out and look at the fishery, and it was in pretty rough shape post flood. So we do have a chemical renovation planned for July of this year. We'll be out there salvaging ahead of time, probably sometime in June, to try to save any fish that are worth saving and moving them to different locations. And then one thing I wanted to mention too, we are having discussions about a future access project there, hopefully within the next couple of years, where we develop some new concrete boat ramps at all 3 of the ponds. And included with that, we're going to put in some ADA fishing piers. We haven't quite settled on a design. That's all just preliminary talks, but pretty hopeful we can get that done. I know that area is really popular for the locals that live around Palisade. So we'll be trying to get it taken care of. Enders, we had some issues at the Area A boat ramp. For those that don't remember, we finished up a boat ramp improvement project there in the fall of 2022. Before the vegetation could really get established and solidify this area, stabilize the ground, we had those major runoff events, which caused a big pooling problem here in this flat spot. We had left that to dirt, expecting the water to run away. It kind of back drained. So we came in, started this project in fall of 23 and finished it up this spring. We hired a contractor, had him build up this surface. So we got a good slope running that water down, poured it all the concrete. Part of that improvement project or boat ramp project that we did in 22 was to build a new parking lot, and there was not a very good way to get from this ramp to that parking lot. So Parks was able to build this staircase here, and we went out and helped them build a walking path. So we connected the two areas a little better, and we're hoping that this will solve the issues at that Area A ramp long term. Moving on to a aquatic habitat project that we have underway. This is happening in two phases. So phase one, we finished up Swanson in the fall of 2023. Medicine Creek is planned for the fall of 2024. This is using Title 28 Bureau of Reclamation funds paired with some aquatic habitat dollars. We're building 6 rock shoals in 7 locations in each of the reservoirs. As you can see, we have to build them right on the shoreline. So we get them as close to the water as we can. All of these locations are going to be marked with buoys. So when they come up, there'll be hazard buoys to denote where those are so you don't have to worry about hitting them. And we will get some benefit out of these for shoreline stabilization as that water drops. It's going to protect those and prevent some of that sediment from moving around. Finally, we finished up our artificial fish attractor project. This was again a Bureau of Reclamation grant paired with some Game and Parks funds. We built 100 of these for the 4 Southwest reservoirs, 25 per reservoir, and we placed those in 2023. We did tie together 6 or 7 of these Georgia Cube structures to make bigger complexes to make them a little easier to find. And I do have GPS locations available for these. I did include them in all of the survey summaries for the 4 reservoirs. So if you get on our webpage, you can find them there, or feel free to reach out and I'm happy to send them over to you so you can get them on your locators. I'm not going to go too deep into our stocking just to save some time, but as you can see from here, we have a very diverse request for stocking this year with fairly high numbers, and this is just in my area. Big thanks to our hatcheries for all their efforts to meet this request, and we'll do everything we can to support them in doing so. And finally, I'll move on to our area fishing forecast. Not a real great year for walleye and saugeye in the 4 Southwest reservoirs. We've kind of had some issues with those populations the last several years. So we're looking at how we're stocking and what we're stocking and making some changes. That's all covered in my survey summary. So please read those, call out if you have questions, concerns on that too. Interestingly, we did see a good bump in H0s at Medicine Creek this year. So we're hopeful maybe we're figuring out some of those issues. Moving on to white bass and wiper, pay attention to our y-axis. If you look at wiper, it only goes up to 5, and on white bass it goes to 5, and wipers hits all the way up to 60. Kind of a down catch year for wipers. Enders and Swanson would be your best bet to catch nicer fish and have a little higher abundance, but we've seen through the years our catch down there can be pretty variable, so I'm not real concerned about those populations with the white bass. Wipers, we have plenty, if not too many, wipers at the 3 reservoirs we're stocking them in. So Medicine Creek was the top surveyed lake in the state for the 2nd year in a row at just over 45, right at 45 per net. Red Willow and Swanson were right around 20 to 22. Good diversity of smaller fish and larger fish to target. We want to try to avoid overabundance, so we've postponed wiper stockings until we can get these numbers down a little bit. So please be harvest oriented if you're wiper fishing. If you catch some of them, take them home, eat them just like you would a white bass. We can always get more. That's one thing with our stockings of those wipers. They've been working gangbusters, so we can produce them for you. Blue catfish, Medicine Creek and Swanson's the 2 reservoirs in my sub-district. We've been stocking these. If we can get to 4 to 5 per gill net in the fall. We're pretty happy with that number. So we typically don't survey the bigger fish in those gill nets. So we've been adding some summer electrofishing to try to get a better handle on those fish over 35 inches. We started at Swanson in 2023 and expanding that to Medicine Creek in 2024. Again, channel catfish are doing really well for the most part across the Southwest. All 4 of these reservoirs will continue to produce good channel catfish. And I know Tony mentioned it earlier, but be mindful of that 1/30 inch, especially at places like Red Willow and Medicine Creek where we have the bigger population there. Just trying to protect some of those older fish, make there a little better trophy opportunity for anglers. And I'll finish up with crappie here. If you look at this graph, it looks like Medicine Creek had kind of a down year, but actually it was up compared to the previous years at around 30 per net. What's throwing it off was this incredible catch that we saw at Red Willow, where we surveyed 220 per trap, 28 per trap net in the spring of 2023, with a huge year class between 8 to 10 inches and then a good mix of fish over 10 to 12. So that's going to be a really exciting fishery for the next couple of years. Get out, use it, enjoy it while it's there. As I expect those numbers to start to come down as they get fished out. And with that, I'll remind you again, here's my contact information, office phone number and email. Please reach out if you got any questions that don't get answered tonight. I'm always happy to discuss things further. And with that, I'm all finished up.
All right, thanks, Sean. We've got a couple questions here. So you mentioned some Georgia Cube projects. People can reach out to you for locations of those. I assume you have them.
Yeah, I do. And if you go on our website and get in the survey summary, the GPS locations are on there too. So we tried to make them as available as we can. If you have trouble with that, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email and I can email them over too.
Perfect. And then White Bass and Medicine Creek, any thoughts on what happened to those and any chance of introducing some more in there via stocking?
We'll watch it really closely. I think a lot of why we're not catching white bass is just the incredible wiper catch that we've had, where we're catching 45 per net. So I'm sure that high abundance of wipers is having an effect on the white bass. But yeah, we'll continue to look at it really closely, and if we deem necessary, we'll request white bass. But I know Brad mentioned before in answering a few other questions, white bass are really difficult for our hatcheries to culture. So we haven't been really requesting white bass until we can maybe figure out a little more efficient method to do that.
Okay, that's pretty much all the questions, at least pertinent to what we got right now. I'm gonna share our poll results here. Did you go ice fishing this last winter in Nebraska? If you did, it was probably over about the week that we had ice. 53% said no. Do you use forward-facing sonar? 70% in the group said they do not. And if you do own a forward-facing sonar, when do you primarily use it? It's about 50-50 of open water or both during ice fishing and open water. And if you do not own a forward-facing sonar, do you plan to purchase one over the next couple of years? 74% said no. So again, interesting answers there. So I'm gonna turn it over to Brad to take us home tonight.
All right, thanks, Jordan. Yeah, I have the privilege of managing Nebraska's second largest reservoir, Harlan, and so for the next few minutes, I'll talk about some pretty exciting things that have been happening down there this year. We have a major aquatic habitat project going on down there that just started in December on the Methodist Cove area, which is located on the upper north side of the lake. We received a section 1135 grant through the Corps of Engineers this past year, which took a lot of studies and feasibility to get it. It took many years, and We finally were awarded that last year. Nebraska it's the first project that's an 1135 project that's happened in Nebraska. And a little more detail about the 1135 program. It's only allowed on Corps of Engineers properties, and it can only be used to restore and protect aquatic or terrestrial environments. So we're going to use it at Harlan to restore Methodist Cove. We have a partnership between the Corps of Engineers and Game and Parks for this project. The majority of the funding for this is authorized by Congress. It's part of the bipartisan infrastructure act that was authorized last year. And so the federal government's going to provide $10 million for this project. One of the benefits of it is that the state is only required to match 25% of that. So we're going to get a pretty good bang for the anglers' aquatic habitat dollars by only having to pay up about $2 million to complete this project. So, and like I say, construction started in 2023 in December, and it's expected to get wrapped up sometime in 2025. But the picture down on the lower right kind of shows the project area where we're going to be working in that cove and in the stilling basin above it. So why do we want to do this project? Well, Harlan Reservoir is, 70 some years old now. And when it was first constructed, it had over 12 pretty major coves that were continuously connected to the reservoir. And coves are extremely important habitat for shoreline orientated species that are nest spawners, such as crappie, largemouth bass, bluegill. And they also provide a pretty important habitat area for, open water species at some point in their life, such as walleyes and white bass. So over the years, shoreline erosion has caused a lot of lateral transport of sediments, and sediments have come in through the creeks and the watershed. And, we've lost a lot of depth in these coves, and we've lost the connectivity to the main reservoir. So as you can see in that top picture, when the reservoir drops a couple feet, fish aren't able to get into Methodist Cove because of a large berm on the mouth of it. And the bottom two pictures demonstrate how much sediment's been accumulated in that cove over the 70-year lifespan of the reservoir. That stump you see was probably cut off in the 50s when they built the lake, and since then it's had about 8 to 10 foot of sediment deposited on top of it. So this project will remedy that. And like I say, it's going to restore connectivity to the reservoir. We're going to go in, and which, as a matter of fact, they've already done most of this work. They've dug a 1,000-foot channel, 200 feet wide, that'll connect Methodist Cove to the deeper water of the main reservoir. Then we're going to go in to protect that from getting sediment back in that channel. We're going to build some short little rock groins that stick out from the bank line, which are similar to what you see in that picture on the bottom right, which is right out in front of Patterson Harbor down there at Harlan Reservoir. And that'll prevent some of that lateral drift of shoreline erosion from filling in that channel. We'll build a large rock berm, which has already been constructed. And you can see that in the picture in the upper right. And that berm will protect that channel from getting shoreline from erosion entering it from the east side. Then finally, we're going to build a large, approximately almost 700-foot breakwater that comes off the Methodist Cove campground. And that's going to provide further protection to the cove and also provide some very good angler access for shore anglers to get out there and fish. So what are we going to do for fish habitat improvements? Well, we're going to go into that cove, and we're going to excavate it, and then we're going to build some gravel spawning beds, such as what you see in that picture over to the right. And we're going to add a bunch of fish structures and habitat features, such as some artificial features, and then we're using a bunch of natural large cedar trees that we removed from core property to fill in, to replace some of the woody vegetation and the woody structure that used to be in the reservoir that crappies like to like to spawn around. You know, like computers locked up angle, so. Seems like it's pretty recurrent. Every year we do the Southwest management meeting, we always have computer issues, so. Anyway, but that's what we're gonna, it's a pretty exciting project we're doing down there at Harlan with that 1135 project. Like I say, it's gonna probably be finished up here in sometime in 2025. And it's pretty exciting, and hopefully we'll see some pretty good improvements to not only crappie populations, but other sport fish species that also. Sticking to the topic of Harlan, I'm going to jump into some of the artificial structures we put in there with the Corps of Engineers over the past 3 or 4 years. You know, Game and Parks has an amazing relationship with the Corps staff down there at Republican City, and it's allowed us to do a lot of things on that reservoir that we don't always get to do with some of our other reservoirs. And the Corps has been real instrumental in using some volunteer help to get us to build some Georgia Cube plastic structures that we've put over 150 of them in now in various locations of the reservoir. Still trying to work through this. And we have GPS points of all those, so as soon as we get it up, I'll be glad to share it with you. But they've been real popular with ice fishermen down there and other anglers. There we go. As you can see on that map down there at the bottom, we have about 6 different locations where those are located in the reservoir, and the GPS points for them are right there. You're gonna have to reshare, Alex. Moving on reservoir levels, just real quick at Harlan, we're down about a little over 6 feet from full pool right now. I don't expect a real big gain this year, but it's all going to be dependent on, you know, precipitation in the Republican River Valley. Hopefully we don't see too large of a drawdown, but like I say, it's all dependent on rainfall down there. Our low last year was 1937.9, and we're up not quite 1.5 feet, 2 feet from that level last year, from last year's elevation. So it's kind of nice to have the reservoir low at this point in time so we can get this Methodist project finished up. But at the same time, you know, it also has a pretty big impact on access to that reservoir when the lake gets much lower than 1935 or so. So for stocking requests for Harlan, we're only going to stock 2 different species this year. We're doing our annual walleye stocking, which we do every April. We have a fry stocking program down there, which our research has shown to be the most effective over fingerlings. Get those fry in early, gives them a head start on the gizzard shad, and we typically have some pretty good year classes of walleye from those fry stockings. This year we're putting in about 11.7 million. That's 1,000 per acre, and that's based on the estimated surface acreage that we're expecting here in April. We're also stocking wipers this year. Our wiper stocking protocol for Harlan is stock them every 3rd year. We're trying to refine our stocking rates a little bit down there. Seems like fry work really, really well for wipers, and if you put 500,000 of them in, it seems like 500,000 of them will live. And so we've really reduced that stocking rate to try to, you know, get a more manageable number of wipers down there. And if you compare the stocking rate of walleye versus wipers right now, I mean, look, we're stocking 1,000 walleyes per acre and only 42 wipers per acre. And so, but we'll continue to manage those, and you know, there's a lot of people that like to catch those, and there's a lot of people that hate them. So we continuously, it's a balancing act for us. Just a quick fishing forecast for the reservoir. You know, catfish, I'd expect pretty good fishing opportunities down there for them. We have a real stable population of those down there, and and a good size structure. With crappie, we're seeing a declining population, primarily due to lower, lower reservoir elevations. Like I mentioned earlier, cove habitats are extremely important for crappie production, and the past few years, a lot of the crappie haven't been able to get into many of the coves to successfully spawn. So we are seeing a lower number of them, but we do have some really nice fish in the population right now that people are catching. White bass fishing was phenomenal at Harlan last summer. People caught a lot of fish down there all summer, and we saw the results of that in our nets last fall. Saw a fairly decent decline in them, but we still have some pretty big white bass down there, and over the years we've had really good recruitment on them, and so I'd expect they'd rebound pretty quick. And as everybody knows who fishes the Harlan very much, we do have a pretty good population of wipers down there. Most of those fish that people are catching are from the 2021 year class, and they range from about 15 to 19 inches. So they are doing well. And then finally, our walleye numbers last fall looked pretty good. They've been stable down there for about the last 10 years or so. We didn't see a lot of fish from I guess to rephrase that, most of the fish we saw last year were from the 2021 year class for walleyes. It was a really good year class, a lot of fish out there from that stocking and natural year class. And those fish are ranging from 15 to 18 inches and will provide some really good harvest opportunities for people for the next couple of years, hopefully. But unfortunately, we didn't see a lot of other size classes of walleyes, which is kind of alarming, but I'm sure some of them are still there. If you want additional information on Harlan Reservoir or any of the other reservoirs in the Southwest District, I'd strongly encourage you to go to our website and look at the sampling reports that we put online. The biologists, work their tails off to write these up. They're basically mini management plans that we put out there with a lot of different information on the reservoir. We still have a couple from our district that need to be uploaded to the web, and I promise you they will be put on there by sometime next week. McConaughey is one of those, and it will be on there next week. Yeah, it's some really good information, so I encourage you to look into that. And we also have the fishing forecast that summarizes all the the lakes in the state from the survey data, and so it's good information for anglers before you go to a reservoir and fish. Finally, I just want to touch a little bit on aquatic invasive species. To do them justice, you'd have to talk for an hour on all the different threats, but I'm only going to talk for a minute or two on it. We've been very fortunate in the Southwest District to not have zebra mussels show up in our district yet. Anglers, you guys and gals can be commended for that. As obviously you're putting some effort into cleaning your boats off before you move from reservoir to reservoir, and we really appreciate that. We continue to monitor for zebra mussels by collecting villager samples and looking at docks and doing everything like that to make sure we're detecting them before they get spread too far. But luckily we haven't found them, so we're very happy about that. Unfortunately, we are seeing some of the big-headed carp species moving up the river systems, primarily the silver carp. We have them up both the Republic or the Loop and the Platte River basins. And in this summer, we had kind of a disturbing sighting of one as far west as right below the diversion at North Platte, where Central diverts their water into the supply canal. And it was a dead fish that got stuck on one of their gates. And we did some pretty extensive sampling there and didn't see any others. So I hope it's an isolated incident, but in the right water conditions, those fish can go upstream a long ways. The other negative AIS species we have to deal with is milfoil, Eurasian milfoil, and we've seen that spread in quite a few lakes. So, if you're putting your boats in and moving them around, make sure you clean the vegetation and stuff off your trailers and boat motors to help prevent the spread of that. We're going to have a variety of or numerous clerks out this summer doing interviews and surveys and providing some education on aquatic invasive species at boat ramps of all of our major reservoirs. And so if they stop you, I encourage you to talk to them and listen to them, let them inspect your boat. And, if you're nice to them, you'll get a free towel and a koozie for your beer from them. So. And then finally, I'd like to thank the management staff that we have working here in the Southwest District. These guys, they work their tails off year round, have some great ideas. They're innovative. Besides Daryl and I, they're all a bunch of young guns that, have good ideas on things. And so I'd like to thank them for all their efforts of what they put in for time and efforts to keep fishing good in the Southwest. And finally, he's probably going to kill me for saying this, but I'd like to thank Daryl, and I'd like to congratulate him on his 50 years of public service as being a biologist, working for the Game and Parks Commission. It's been a pretty amazing run for him, and I hope he stays on for a few more years, because he's a great source of knowledge, and he has a passion for resource management out there that's it's unheard of by a lot of us. So he Lake McConaughey, Lake Ogallala are both better places because of Daryl's time that he's put in there over the years. So thanks, Daryl, for your time, and congratulations on getting 50 years in with the agency. And I guess while I'm still talking, and I have a couple of minutes before we close out, but I'd like to leave you with this little thought to ponder before we go. The threats to Nebraska's aquatic resources, continue to grow each year. Our reservoirs are getting older. We still see, a lot of sedimentation and nutrient inputs coming into our water bodies. We unfortunately are seeing declining reservoir or river levels, river flows, groundwater levels, which impact, water levels in our reservoirs. We're seeing attacks on our funding from, our state legislature. There's just a lot of threats out there. So anglers and us resource managers, we need to, stay unified and work together to help, ward off these threats. But, unfortunately, I've done this job for 30 plus years now, and it seems like in recent years, there's a lot more conflict between angling groups, and there's a lot more animosity between, fisheries biologists and some of the angling groups, it seems like, or some of the anglers. And, I don't think, in my opinion, we have to stop this to, we want to maintain the quality of our fisheries and ensure that our resources are in good shape for our future generations. So I would just, encourage everybody to, work together, get along, so we maintain a strong voice that between anglers and managers of the resource to, just to make sure we're heard, because we have to go to the legislature and talk to them. We have to talk to some of the different strong industry and agriculture groups who are, pretty powerful people. So, I just encourage everybody to get along. This meeting kind of serves as a method for us biologists to, give our message out to you guys, and it provides an opportunity to you to, provide feedback to us. And we need to, not only do this just on one day a year, but continue to do it throughout the year. So, please feel free to contact myself or any of the biologists on this page if you have any concerns, questions, ideas, in the Southwest District, and we'll be more than glad to help you out or answer your questions and listen to your ideas, and we can go from there. So with that, that's all I have. Thank you all for your time. We still got a few people on here. Looks like still got about 75 people still on the meeting. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them yet. We'll be around for a few more minutes, and thanks again for coming out.
Very, very well said there, Brad. Hopefully a lot of our participants still, take that to heart. Back to a couple, your first part of your talk was about Harlan. This has been an ongoing thing with the wipers down there. And also we've had some poll questions that you guys put together about length limits on wipers and white bass and potentially changing them. Do you think that could potentially come to some sort of fruition? And do you think the wipers are hurting your walleye recruitment down at Harlan?
You know, I can't tell you one way or another if they're having real major impacts on our walleye recruitment. You know, we've done some studies in the past where we've shown the wipers weren't having a direct impact on walleyes. But I mean, there's obviously some overlap that can happen. We are looking at, or I would like to look this summer at, you know, possibly changing the 1/16 on wipers at Harlan and in fact, the whole Southwest system. You know, as Sean mentioned, there's a lot of wipers in the whole Southwest system right now. And, you know, bumping that up to possibly 1/18 inches, which would, you know, allow anglers to harvest 15 of those wipers for an entire another year of their life cycle before they get over the 18-inch minimum. So that's something I'll be looking at. We'll be looking at out here this summer. But, you know, I don't think they're having a huge impact on the walleye population. But like I say, we've been trying to reduce the stocking rate every time we've stocked them since 2017, and we've got it down now to about as low as we can go, I think. So we'll see how it does this year.
Have you considered a 10-inch minimum on crappie at Harlan and potentially the Sherman walleye reg at Harlan?
At this point, we have not, no. It's something we could look at, but it'd be, you know, it's something we could consider. The crappie grow extremely fast at Harlan. But like I say, with the fluctuating reservoir down there, our year classes can be somewhat sporadic due to the lack of proper spawning habitat, cove habitat for them.
All right, very good. I'm gonna throw this one to Tony. And Brad, you can feel free to touch base on this as well from your perspective as a district manager. With the growing number of anglers and being able to fish kind of year round, any concern or maybe touch base on kind of how our regulation process works and being able to react, how we monitor our fisheries and be able to react quickly to be able to change any regulations that we feel we need to be able to change in order to protect any fisheries that are out there.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with just how active our crews are in monitoring a lot of our priority water bodies. You saw a lot of data presented tonight, whether it was trap nets, gill nets, electrofishing data, looking at a number of different species. And the only way we can track trends over time is to be able to be out there year after year after year collecting this data. So we can see the dynamics in our fisheries resources and potentially see the need to intervene, whether that is regulations, habitat improvements, that sort of thing, even stocking for that matter. So one thing is having the data beforehand, prior to making any sort of regulations or management decision changes. You've heard it a number of times today within the answers that our biologists have provided as far as using the data and using the most current information to, you know, manage our resources and whether we feel like a regulation implementation is needed or not. And so everything that we do, we strive to be science-based and really adaptively manage our resources based on the changing conditions. That question talked about how our angler base has changed over time, a lot more late fall and into the winter type fishing. And yeah, that is considered. We are concerned about that. We love to see folks out there fishing, but at the same time, kind of like Brad stated earlier, we do have the conservation and enhancement of our fisheries resources at the forefront of our minds as well. And so we're going to continue to adaptively manage as we can. And through that it can be a lot of different things. It's not always regulations. It can be, but it can be through habitat manipulations, aquatic habitat projects, fish stockings, and that sort of thing.
All right, thanks, Tony. I'm gonna go ahead and end this poll. So the main not the main question, but the one, I can't see the short answer responses here. Those all get tabulated and sent to us after the fact. But the top question here was, would you support adopting the one walleye 15 to 18 and 3 longer than 18 or 4 longer than 18 with no more than 122 or longer? Again, 73% would support using that regulation at more waters in the Southwest District. So that bodes well, or right in line with an earlier question of more walleye regs or more walleye management in the Southwest District. And with that, I will pass it back to Brad, his crew, and Tony to wrap up with any closing remarks.
Yeah, I'll just thank everybody once again for coming out and spending their evening with us, and feel free to reach out whenever you need something, and hopefully we'll see some of you on the waters this summer when we're out sampling and doing our thing. So don't be afraid to say hi to us when we're out there.
I'll echo Brad's comments. Having folks on here, close to 90 folks at the peak, and it's a testament to you as an angler being wanting to be involved, wanting to be in the know, looking for the information and interacting with us. And so we do appreciate you being on here and providing this input and letting us kind of do our thing and give you the information that we have as well, because you can see our biologists have a passion for this. They want these fisheries resources to be just as good, if not better than a lot of the anglers out there as well. And so I will mention, we'll send out a follow-up email. The crew talked a lot about different links on our website where you'll find survey summaries and different types of information, stocking information. We'll follow up with an email that provides a lot of those links to those that type of information, so it's right at your fingertips. So be looking for that in the coming weeks. And I will leave it off with our Fisheries Division Administrator, Dean Rosenthal, for our closing remarks for the meeting tonight. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tony. Really appreciate all the effort that the team puts into these things. They appreciate the anglers. We just really appreciate all the effort, and we thank you for coming out. These guys, they want to have the communication with you anglers. They give the information, they give their contact information. Each meeting, that contact information is stressed, and we want to communicate with you and want to hear what your ideas are. And these guys are all anglers too, so we want it as good as you guys do. So I appreciate you guys all coming out tonight for this, and we thank you and hope you have a great evening. Thank you.